the man was dying, alone, in a hotel room that had been locked from the inside. On January 2, 1935, a man checked into the President Hotel in Kansas City, Missouri. He gave the name Roland T. Owen and requested an interior room, one without a window to the street. Owen was described by hotel staff as neatly dressed and polite, but strange. He carried no luggage, only a comb, a toothbrush, and toothpaste. Room 1046 was simple: a bed, a desk, 2 chairs, and a single lamp. The phone. A small closet. Nothing unusual. It was one of the cheapest rooms in the hotel, and Roland seemed determined not to draw attention. A man who wanted no one to remember him. But people did remember Roland T. Owen. By the next day, staff were already uneasy about him. The cleaning staff told police later that Owen sat alone in the dark for hours. When the maid, Mary Soptic, asked if she could open the window or turn on a light, he told her no. By January 3, it was clear someone else knew Roland was staying at the President Hotel, someone who didn't seem to want him to be alone. The phone in room 1046 rang repeatedly. Roland would answer, listen, and hang up without saying much. That afternoon, Mary Soptic noticed something new in the room. A note left on the desk, scratched out in pencil. Dawn, it said. I'll be back in 15 minutes. Wait. Roland didn't look like he'd been sleeping well. That night, a woman in the room next door reported hearing loud voices in room 1046. 2 men arguing. Then the sounds of a commotion. A thud. Silence. By January 4, Roland wasn't answering the phone anymore. When a bellboy was sent to check on him, he found the door locked, with a "Do Not Disturb" sign hanging on the handle. Inside, Roland's voice told the bellboy he was fine and didn't need anything. A few hours later, staff sent another bellboy to check again. This time, he heard nothing. He knocked again. No answer. He used a skeleton key to open the door. What he found inside remains one of Kansas City's strangest mysteries. Roland T. Owen was lying on the bed, curled on his side. His body was covered in deep wounds from a knife. His skull was fractured. Blood painted the walls, the floor, the bed. The phone was ripped from the wall. But somehow Roland was still alive. When hotel staff asked what had happened, Roland's responses were cryptic. He told them, "Nobody hurt me." He said he'd fallen against the bathtub. It wasn't true. Police were called. They found the clues perplexing. The door had been locked from the inside, leaving no evidence of how anyone else could have entered. There was no murder weapon in the room. A bar of soap had strange smudges in it, as though someone had written something there and scrubbed it out. Roland T. Owen was rushed to the hospital, but it was too late. He died from his injuries just hours after being discovered. The police quickly learned the name Roland T. Owen was fake. Investigators revealed Owen had stayed in another Kansas City hotel weeks earlier under the name Eugene K. Scott. But his real identity remained unknown. It wasn't long before the case caught national attention. Newspapers across America published dramatic headlines: "Bloodshed in Room 1046, reporters speculated about organized crime, a love affair gone wrong, or even a suicide disguised as murder." But none of the theories matched the evidence. One witness came forward with a strange story. It was the woman in room 1048, the room next door. She claimed she'd seen a man with Roland the night before his death, a man with thick cauliflowered ears, the kind a boxer might have. She told police Roland and this man were drinking together in nearby clubs but seemed secretive. She also remembered something else: Roland called his companion Dawn. For months, the name Dawn haunted the investigation. The reference to Dawn in the note. The neighbor hearing Roland argue with someone. These were the clearest pieces of evidence, but Dawn himself was never found. The case took a stranger turn months later, when a florist in Kansas City received an anonymous call. The man on the phone said he wanted to pay for flowers to be placed on Roland's grave in Memorial Park Cemetery. He gave no name and insisted the flowers be arranged in the shape of a cross, and the card should say, "Love Forever, Louise." Investigators never identified Louise. Meanwhile, Roland's real identity wouldn't be uncovered until much later. 2 years after the murder, in 1937, a barmaid in Wichita recognized the photo police had circulated. She believed Roland was actually a man named Artemus Ogletree, a 17-year-old from Birmingham, Alabama, who'd been missing since 1934. When authorities contacted Artemis's mother, she confirmed it. Roland T. Owen was her son. But even that fact raised new questions. Artemis had been sending letters to his mother from various cities after disappearing in 1934. They were strange, she said, and didn't sound like her son's usual writing. The last letter arrived in early 1935, weeks after the murder. She told police that while his letters hinted at travel, her son had never mentioned Kansas City. To this day, no one knows who killed Artemus Ogletree, or why. The name Don lives on as a shadowy clue, someone who left no trace for investigators to follow. Some theorize Don was part of organized crime. Others suggest jealousy or revenge. The death of Artemus Ogletree inside room 1046 remains one of Kansas City's oldest and strangest mysteries. A young man who checked into a hotel under an assumed name, who locked his door against the world, who whispered secrets on the telephone, and who couldn't escape what was coming.